Hello, I'm Lachlan Copeland and I'm a botanist based in Coffs Harbour, northern New South Wales. I work for Ecological Australia, a Tetra Tech Company, as a senior botanist. I do lots of varied work out in the field with plants, but my main interest is in plant taxonomy, which is the process of classifying, describing and naming species. And during my work as a field botanist, I often come across plant species that I don't recognise. Usually with a bit of hard work I can positively identify these things, but on rare occasions they actually turn out to be new species. And by new species I should point out that it's quite possible they have actually been seen before by non-botanists or even Australian Aborigines who have possibly known of them for millennia and use them as a resource of some sort. And if the plants could talk, of course, if you could ask them, they'd actually say, well, hang on, I'm actually not that new, I've been around for tens of thousands of years, it's just that you haven't noticed me before and studied me before. So in terms of how often a new plant species found, well, probably more often than you might think. Not as often as, say, new insects or spiders or worms or other small creatures, difficult to observe and very diverse, but certainly more often than, say, our better studied groups like birds and mammals. Over the past 20 or so years, I'd say I've probably averaged about one new species per year. So once the plant species is found to be new, I'd usually send it to a specialist in the group for confirmation, and they may choose to describe and name the species themselves in a respected scientific journal, or they might offer me co-authorship, in which case we might both work on it, or they might even suggest I just take the lead myself. But either way, it's really important to get that new species described and named in the literature, as it will better help understand them, and it will definitely help with their long-term conservation. So how does all this fit into our work here at Tetra Tech? Well, in recent years I've found perhaps 4 or 5 new species that has been, during work, funded by external government agencies that are always really keen to know about new species. They're responsible for plant conservation and they're always keen to find out what's out there and to learn more about plants which might need some level of protection. So they do often contract us to go out in the bush and survey national parks and nature reserves, and specifically looking for new or rare species is often a priority. And I've been fortunate enough to get some funding in recent times to work on the taxonomy of these plants, to spend some time describing them and naming them as well. So some of the plant species photos that you're probably seeing right now, they've all been discovered during recent work, and I've named them in recent years as well, such as Anzibas globulus, which is a tiny little ground orchid. I named just last year, known from the Single National Park. Also Caledonia dorigoensis, another tiny orchid. This one's even rarer, known from a single population of less than 50 plants, so it doesn't get much rarer than that. Amaranthus binghoyensis, that one's always going to be special to me. It was the first new species I found back in 1998 and named just a few years after that. And typical of so many new plant species found these days, Pimelia cremnophila. It's restricted to rocky areas and remote country, hard to get to, and I named this one cremnophila from the Greek words kremnos, meaning cliff, and phylos, meaning loving, as it's a cliff lover as far as I'm concerned. You won't find it anywhere other than a few cliff tops. And finally, a few more photos of some recently discovered species that I'm working on which are yet to be named. But fortunately there is a little bit of funding coming our way to work on the taxonomy of these plants and hopefully describe them and name them in the near future, and that will no doubt help in their long-term conservation.